The American Craftsman podcast is sponsored by Hayfla. Hayfla offers a wide range of products and solutions for the woodworking and furniture making industries, from hinges and drawer slides to connectors and dowels, sandpaper, wood glue, shop carts, and everything in between. Exclusive product lines such as Lux LED lighting and Slido door hardware ensure that every project you create is built to last. Learn more at hayfla.com. Additional sponsorship provided by Ridge Carbide. When you need the right saw blade for the job, put your trust in Ridge Carbide Tools. For over 50 years, Ridge Carbide has been producing industrial saw blades designed with the exact specifications for the cutting results you expect. Before you buy, call us and we'll help you determine the right tool that meets your needs and your budget. After the sale, Ridge Carbide provides sharpening services for all your saw blades, dado sets, router bits, and jointer planer knives. Located in Kansas, Ridge Carbide Tools provides high-quality products with outstanding customer service at a fair price. What are you cutting? Enjoy the show. Welcome back.
Good to be back. It was a short weekend, it seemed like.
Yeah, that's what Cameron said when I asked him how his weekend was. He was like, seemed like it went pretty fast.
That's what my son says. He's working in the city doing the Wall Street thing. He says it's just like boiler room. It's a pretty rough.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, he's just making cold calls, and he says it's just a room full of testosterone.
I don't think I could do it.
And then he does 2 days of caddying, usually.
Dust collector.
There you go. But he always says, he goes, I can't believe it's Monday already, because I drove him to the boat today. And it's a pretty cool experience for him, though, to be in that kind of a situation. He tells me some of the stories where I guess there was some kind of a thing happened where somebody who was a little bit of, senior, maybe 20 years his senior, felt like he was coming in on his territory. And Mike was like, I thought we were going to go downstairs. But again, he's just getting back to the short weekend. But that's also because we're recording this on Monday.
Yeah. Usually like Wednesday. That's so Cameron's running the Street Big solo.
Cool.
We haven't done anything since that video. That was it. 45 minutes of training.
That saw it just takes so much guesswork out, because I was explaining that to my wife. I was saying that to get that repeatability in square cuts on a table saw, first of all, you've got a major danger factor when you're dealing with that large of material. And the repeatability more than likely wouldn't happen with somebody just starting out.
Yeah, and so the rips are fine on a table saw for the most part,
sure.
As long as you have a in-feed and an out-feed. The in-feed's really the problem typically.
Yeah.
But the cross-cuts.
Yeah.
So what do you need to have either the sliding table like we have, or a huge cross-cut sled?
Well, that's what I've got, I think, a 22-inch cross-cut sled, 22 by something like 52.
Wow.
But still, sometimes it's not big enough.
Yeah, if you're doing cabinet size, you want 24 or 23 and a quarter, whatever. Yeah,
so the fact that those cuts are just so square, building a cabinet, if you're starting with square parts, that just eliminates so many problems right off the bat. I know that I was making almost all of my cuts for all of my furniture, everything, with the crosscut sled, because it's really square, until I got the Festool Capex, and I find that cuts nice and square.
Yeah.
Before that, I had the Bosch like you have, but I had the 10-inch. It was good out of the box for a few months, and then it went off, and I couldn't readjust it back.
Yeah, this thing has a lot of play back and forth. And so I used to run that same saw when I was a trim carpenter, and I had the same problem.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be super rigid because of that articulating arm, whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Mine worked for a while pretty good, but then it just slowly got worse and worse, and you'd spend so much time trying to adjust it, and then it still wouldn't work. So you're just throwing hours away. It's like when you rush out to the shop to get something done, and 4 hours later you're still trying to adjust something and you've got nothing done.
Yeah.
So that's never a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of guys swear by the DeWalt's, which is what I had before. I had the old over-under DeWalt, where the tubes are over under instead of side by side.
Okay.
They don't make that one anymore, but that thing, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, before the Bosch, I had the 8.25 Hitachi, and that's what I started my channel with. And it didn't have a guard on it, and I would get a lot of comments. I left it on a job site, and somebody took the guard off, so it wasn't like it broke. I mean, one day the guard just wasn't there, and so it didn't have a guard, and then when I think eventually the brake stopped working, so then you just have this open blade spinning.
Oh yeah, and
then eventually it just died, and I just got rid of it. Now I probably should have kept it because I think that there's a high demand for that. So
yeah,
it's like
it was one of the Japanese ones. Yeah,
it's about today. It would be like probably, I don't know, 35 years old maybe. And I think I bought it. If I bought it in 1990, would it be 34 years old?
Yep.
Yeah, it's about when I bought it. I think.
Wow.
Maybe 1992. Somewhere around there. But yeah, it was a good saw for years. Of course, you couldn't cut that deep with it because it was only an 8.25 saw. But I love the Capex. That's just a nice tool.
Yeah, I love that KSC 60 that we have. I don't think I've really ever used like the KS 120 or whatever the full size is. I can't remember a time. I've seen yours. I've seen them, but I haven't maybe I've made a cut, but I haven't used it significantly.
I forget. I know we made a video on your saw, but what size is the blade on that?
It's like 8 inches, basically.
Square?
Oh yeah,
perfectly square. You can put a framing square on it. It's good.
Yeah. The one thing I need to adjust is the stop for the bevel, the zero stop.
Okay,
got knocked out somehow. I got to figure out how to readjust that. It's one of those things. I just show up on site. It's like you're always scrambling.
Sure.
It's like I'm just going to set it to 0, and I'm just going to worry about fixing this zero stop later.
How nice is it having Cameron to set up your job sites?
Oh God.
I mean, setting up your job site by yourself when you're doing all the work too, that's a minimum of an hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of things depend on how well and how much time you take organizing your setup. So that's and as he gets better and more intuitive, that's just going to be a total game changer for you.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're by yourself, you have to do everything. And there's always something you don't want to do. Like sometimes I have to get something out of the van, say in one of the toolboxes that's down low. I hate doing that.
Well, also when you're trying to think, when you're trying to use your brain to figure problem solve, and then you need a tool for that whatever the problem is that you're solving. Now you have to run down and grab a tool from your van. It kind of breaks up your momentum. Yeah, and it's almost like starting from 0. To be able to sort of stay right where you are, warmed up, and send somebody to get it, and in a matter of a couple of months, he'll know exactly what you're talking about. And in a perfect world, he'll kind of see what you're working on and go get it.
Right.
Like that's when you get somebody who kind of knows what you want before you even ask them. Yeah. That's the best.
That's what I'm trying to build in him is that intuition where it's like, okay, we're installing a cabinet, I'm going to drill the holes and then it's like, have the screws ready. You should be handing me 4 screws or whatever,
Sure. I noticed him kind of go on to, we were doing something and you were somewhere and he kind of went on to another thing that made sense. I was like, oh, that's good. This guy's really taking initiative. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good. I got to kick him in the ass every now and then, but.
Is it that generation?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
So you're going to IWF next week?
Yeah, so a week from this coming Wednesday, I'll be flying out to Atlanta, and then I'll be there. We fly home Sunday.
And what are you looking to get?
So I'm going specifically to look at CNCs. So I want to, where else can you go and see all the major manufacturers under one roof? Not really anywhere. IWF is like the show for that. So
what's on your wish list for the CNC that you want in the shop here?
So 5x10, definitely. Want something 5x10. We work with a lot of 5x9 material. So that's a must-have. 4x8's not going to cut it. So definitely 5x10. Need to have a drilling block. So, you have your spindle, which holds one bit. Drilling block will hold multiple bits for doing like your shelf pin holes and stuff like that, rather than doing one at a time with a 5mm bit. It'll drill whatever. I'm not sure what's standard for a drilling block, how many drills, but tool changer, obviously, which I think is that's a standard, basically on these level of machines. I definitely want the option of like a sheet loader and an off feed. Maybe I won't buy it in that configuration, but to be able to add it down the road, that's where you're getting to a point of like automation where you're cutting out another step of having to handle that sheet up onto the machine and having to handle the pieces coming off. It could offload the parts and load a sheet and start cutting while you're sorting out, the parts on the conveyor. So I definitely want that. Something that Eric from Colonial was saying is that you want to have, I forget what they call it, like a kiosk kind of thing where you can quickly program a part and have it cut it like right at the machine versus having to come into the office, draw it on the computer, send it to the machine. I think there's a name for that I'm not remembering, but I'm really green when it comes to CNC. I know a little bit, but I really don't know a lot. So I'm going down there for an education as well. I want to know about like lead times and installation and electrical requirements, dust collection requirements, all that stuff.
What manufacturers are you looking at?
So I'm looking at BSE, Shop Saber, Styles. What else? I mean, those are probably the big ones. Anderson. Those are probably the big ones.
Is Avid sort of not really a great machine?
That's not like a cabinet maker's CNC.
I was wondering, you see that a lot on social media.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all made out of like aluminum extrusions and stuff. That's not a heavy duty machine.
I didn't think so. I was just curious because you see a lot of people it looks like they're just getting them given to them.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to be dealing with a constant noise factor once you get a CNC. Have you thought about building a separate building, like inside this building for it?
No.
Maybe eventually you will.
Yeah, maybe. You have like a 10-minute sheet time.
Okay.
So if you cut 40 sheets, 400 minutes, I could deal with that.
Yeah. Well, it's just, if you did build the building that, or, a room within inside a room, that would make things a lot more difficult for loading and offloading.
Oh, yeah.
So
yep.
It makes sense. Have you figured out where you're going to put it in the shop?
The idea is that it would go sort of in that middle area where that kitchen is set up right now.
Okay.
And then, like I was saying, like I want to maybe clear out one of those workbenches. And if I went to CNC, I would probably like sell the joiner and planer, buy a combo machine, because my hope is to sort of get out of hardwood processing, and get into mostly sheet good.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cabinets.
Yeah. Panel processing.
Are you looking at, if you get into a combo machine, would you look at the hammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice looking machine.
Yeah.
We saw that. We went to that woodworking show. It wasn't a very good woodworking show, but they were there.
Yeah. Yeah, we skipped it this year.
Yeah. Did we go? Was it already this year? I thought we went to it. Oh, no, we skipped it.
No, we were all, the three of us were going to go.
That's right.
And then I had to bail because Hunter was sick or something. And then you and Rob both bailed.
Yeah. You know what? I went to the fly fishing show within a few weeks of that, and it's in the same location.
I've been to that. That's fun.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I went with Peter. He's like a kid in a candy shop. He's funny.
Yeah. That's how I got into fly fishing. Is I went to that show with my buddy, and then I like caught the itch,
Yeah, and that's a time thing. I would love to have the time to fly fish. And like I won't get too deep in the fishing, but I know that last time we talked about you're more into the ocean. The reason why I would want to be on a lake or river is I think it's less time. I think the ocean, once you go a little bit offshore, you've decided, okay, I'm spending a day here.
Yep.
Where my idea of fishing is like, okay, dinner's over. I'm going to go down to the boat and with the little electric motor and do, a half hour's worth of casting. And when we had the Vermont house, there was the property was divided by a road. And we had the house on one side of the road, a dirt road. And on the other side was a hay field with a trail that went down to the third branch of the White River. And so we would have dinner, and then I would just take this old motorcycle and just put a fishing vest on and just ride the motorcycle down to the river and walk up river until it got dark out. So it wasn't that much of it was sort of like fishing on your free time.
Yeah.
And fly fishing, if you're really going to get into it, then you really should be tying your own flies and all that stuff. So I would love to do that. It's just I can't figure out the time. I
do lazy fly fishing where I go like once a year, go up to the river. I tied my own flies for a little bit there in the beginning, but I gave that up. I just buy them. It's not like we're not fishing dry flies, and sight fishing. It's real kind of down and dirty, chuck and duck, like
with a barb.
Or barbless? I mean, we're fishing for steelhead. These things are monsters.
Okay,
they're
When I was fishing, mostly I was just fishing with spinners, but I would always just pinch the barbs because I didn't really want to keep them. And
you're catching little native trout,
You'd be surprised. In that little river, I got a few browns that were 20 inches or more. But often I would not only pinch the barbs, but clip two of the treble hooks. So it was only one hook on a spinner. But anyway, to get what we were talking about the hammer, and we were talking about the CNC. I had another question for you about it.
Onshrewd is the other company I want to look at. That's sort of like probably out of my price range, but.
And you're going to meet with Street Big while you're there?
Yeah. So I think we talked about it last week. Eric was here with Sean, I think is his name. I apologize if I got that wrong 2 weeks in a row.
I think that's
right. Yeah. And we were talking about they're going to have a control there, which is like a higher level Street Big. So I'm going to go in early on Thursday. We'll shoot some stuff with that. And then I'll probably shoot some stuff with LaMelo too, because Colonial is Street Big and LaMelo. So that'll be cool.
I feel like we should be able to do something with LaMelo. I know that you bought all of your tools from, LaMelo, where they were giving a lot of tools away to influencers.
Yeah.
And I talked with, I think it was Scott from LaMelo, but I don't really use it that much. And so if I'm not going to use a tool all that much, I don't accept it because it's an obligation.
Yeah.
And now you have to fulfill this obligation.
And you're kind of faking it.
So if it turns out that I see myself using that tool, and I may, maybe I'll just use yours and see what I think. It looks like, I know that you're using it on this kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
And right away, I was like, it looks like you used the LaMelo here.
We use it like almost on every job now. See, I got a little, how should I phrase this? I threw some shade at LaMelo on Instagram because I felt like everything that they were showing with the Zeta was like a bad use, like a stupid, who's going to put on an end panel with this inside of a frame? Screw it in from the inside. That's what every cabinet maker is going to do. That's not a practical usage of that machine. You can do it, yeah, but it's like a waste of time and effort and material. I think we...
When you say you threw some shade at it, did you do it in the comments or something?
In the DMs.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it was probably Chris that I was talking to, whom I've met before, Chris from Colonial Saw.
Okay.
I would like message, like send him a video that they posted. I'm like, man, this is like stupid way to use this thing. Yes, you could use it that way, but like, you're not going to sell a pro like me on the tool by showing that. Show me the real ways I can use it. So that's how we use it, Well, I feel like we use it in very practical ways.
It's also a professional tool. So it's funny, you see people who are using it who are influencers. They're not really going to influence the weekend homeowner to buy that tool because it's $1,700. What am I going to use that for?
Right.
It really is aimed at somebody like you who's going to justify it by the money they can make with the tool.
Yeah, and I might go through $1,000 worth of connectors in a year.
Sure.
Versus somebody who makes 4 pieces a year. Maybe they're going to use $80 worth of connectors. Not to say that that's the end all be all for marketing, as who can spend the most and whatever, but to me, it's important to portray the tool in a way that a professional would use it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I had a question about the CNCing of cabinets because I I noticed that you're building most of your cabinets now all with 3/4.
Yep.
And is that what you plan on doing?
Oh, yeah.
And you could just talk about that. I'm sure a lot of people can figure out why that makes sense. But if they don't, you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah. So the idea is that you're using just one type of material. So when you do a job, all 3/4 inch pre-fin 2 sides. There's no sense in getting pre-fin 1 side, pre-fin 2 side, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 5/8. You know,
what are you saving? What are you saving with pre-fin on one side? Like how much a sheet?
Oh God, I don't know, 20 cents a square foot. Nothing.
Yeah, so it's just not worth it.
Even if it was 50 cents a square foot, you know, that's $15 a sheet.
The only reason why I could think that you wouldn't want finish on one side is just for a glue joint, but you're screwing everything together anyway.
Right.
And on this last project, the kitchen that you're working on right now, you actually pointed out that it's all poplar core.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd you get that plywood? What did you specify poplar core?
Well, we specified the Pure Bond, it's called, which is a Columbia Forest Products.
Okay, I didn't realize Pure Bond sold poplar core.
Oh yeah.
Now, what's the price difference in something like Pure Bond as opposed to Garnica?
I don't know what Garnica is going for. This stuff is like about $90 a sheet, I want to say.
True 3/4?
I don't think so.
I think it seems to me like the poplar core is a little heavier than some of the other like
fir core.
Yeah, the fir cores, and there's some cores that look like they're multiple cores, like that China stuff.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what those cores are.
Yeah, who knows? They call them half trash.
Void cores.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
I've had like all kinds of weird stuff in those import plies. You know, you cut it and you find like plastic strings and all this weird crap.
You don't buy any of that kind of plywood anymore?
If we build banquettes or something like that, something that's going to be upholstered, I'll buy that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the building experience. Does it make it more? Sometimes you don't lose time just because it's split.
Some people use CDX for that. So that's an upgrade over that.
All right. I'm afraid that you're going to use some kind of material that might delaminate or not hold a screw.
Yeah.
Or when you throw a screw in, it almost acts like a splitting wedge and splits.
You ever bust up like a couch though?
Yeah,
they're made out of junk.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, you know, it's a step above what's already being used, I feel.
Do you want to talk about the video we just shot?
Yes, we just shot a video on finishing, talking about, you know, the idea of just using one product line. It's funny, I'm actually going to be using a different product line pretty soon.
Why?
Because we're matching an old job, so I have to use that paint because it's like a stock. We use Malaysia on this job, the cherry cabinets under the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
That we did years ago. We're building a cabinet adjacent to that, so I need to match that. So rather than trying to like figure out what their stock white is and get it matched and hope it matches, I'm just going to buy a can of that paint.
In that situation, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So you were talking about using the Enduro for kitchen cabinets. So I like the idea of finding something that works and then sticking with it, because then you're not dealing with the science of a finish and you're not dealing with something that may kind of blow up in your face and cause you all kinds of time.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you guys have now found something that's not only durable, but easy to work with.
Yeah. And like I was saying, you know, the key with finishing is like eliminating variables and consistency. Even with like application, like finishing is all about consistency. You want to do everything the same every time. That way, if something goes wrong, you can trace it back to what, you know, you can eliminate all these variables and say, well, I did this the exact way I always do it and it worked last time, so it's not that. You know, if you use the same finish, you can eliminate that variable. Okay, it's not this finish because I've done this however many times.
Sure. So you want to explain what your painted finish is, and anybody tuning in on Saturday can kind of see it again or hear it now.
Yeah.
And then see the process on Saturday morning when the video comes out.
Yeah, so we're using for primer, we're using the Enduro. So Enduro is made by General Finishes. Enduro is just like a line of their finishes. It's been around forever. We're using like the Pro Series, I think it's called. So you have the white undercoat, which is a high solids primer. It's amazing. I mean, like you could spray super thick. I think they said they had someone spray like 21 wet mils, which is like, that's thick. That's like, that might be like over a 16th thick.
Wow.
They don't recommend doing that, obviously, but you can do that without it cracking, like, you know, in your corners and stuff. So it's a high build primer, so you can sand everything nice and flat because you get that high build. You know, you can fill in all those low spots and still have enough coverage where you can sand it down and get everything coplanar. It works really well on MDF, which is good because, you know, we're transitioning to more of these engineered products because of the stability and the price.
I'm sold on those MDF doors.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we spent years sort of proselytizing against it, but I've had like a total change of heart.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. It just makes sense. So I interrupted, finish the finishing process. You were talking about the high solid primer.
Yeah, so we used a white undercoat. And I should mention, like, the reason we got into this is that we started using new doors and they prime with the white undercoat. So why not use the matching top coat? So for top coat, for, you know, prime painted stuff, we're using the Pro Series. Typically it's the white and then it's tinted. But then, for example, like you'll see in the video on Saturday, it's actually a clear that was tinted. So darker colors usually coming from a clear base, and then the lighter colors are going from a white base.
Okay, that makes sense. And so it's 2 coats of primer, sanding in between coats, a coat of finish, light scuff, and then a coat of finish, and you're done.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll have to do a third, you know, just if something pops up. But,
little damage control.
Yeah.
Whatever,
or like if, you know, you don't have your gun tuned up right and you got some orange peel.
So now you've figured out your painted finishes. So now that's not even a variable when you're thinking about a job. You don't have to think, okay, I need to figure out this finish.
Yep.
Except for this thing that you have to match from a couple of years ago. Going forward, that's no longer a question mark, which is huge, right. I think. Because even to this day, I still think, what kind of finish am I going to use? Now, I'm still using Command on a lot of things. I'm probably going to make the switch over to Enduro just because why wouldn't I?
And you could just get it delivered right to your house.
Exactly.
Like, it's great.
And they're in Jersey, so it doesn't take any time. It's like a day. So that's the painted finish. So now what is your go-to finish for, let's say, a nice wood? Cherry, walnut, white oak.
So we're using the clear Enduro. So depending on the situation, like what was it? So we just did the kitchen where we have walnut with clear. I think we talked about it, maybe even on the podcast. So I sprayed shellac. I pulled a John Peters.
That's a great idea. Where'd you get that from?
And then the Enduro. So we get the grain to pop. Then we put the water base on top. But, you know, for white oak, it looks good with just that water based.
It does. It's a different look.
Yeah.
It's a different look. So you can kind of go with what you're going for. If you want the deep honey brown.
Yeah, people are looking for that subdued, like almost unfinished look these days. So
they are.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're looking for, then you can go with a water base without the shellac. If you want that warm sort of honey feeling, then you have to shellac it first.
Yep.
And when we say shellac, we're talking about the sand and seal from Bullseye.
Yeah.
It's a Zinsser product. I remember when I met Anthony from Real Antique Wood. This is going back maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We shot a video there. And I asked him what he used on the floors because they're doing all these beautiful reclaimed whatever type. Could be white oak, could be whatever.
Hemlock.
Yeah, hemlock, anything. And he says, we use this Bona product.
Yep.
It's a water-based product. And I said, really? Doesn't that like kind of like take the life and the beauty out of the wood? He goes, oh no, we shellac it first.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right away, I was like, oh, okay. I just love it when I hear something that I've known to be sort of in my background for the past 30 years, that somebody who else has been doing it is doing the same process.
Right. Yeah. And like General Finishes makes a sanding sealer. I don't know what it is or if that would work, but it could.
I think it has to be. So for me, it's a solvent based.
Yeah.
You can get that same look by using a solvent based lacquer, or you can use so like the piece that I just finished, I wanted that warm look on the Hawaiian monkey pod. So I used Waterlox, wipe on varnish basically. If I were to just clear coat that with a water based finish, that would just look horrible.
Yeah.
it wouldn't have any life to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could hit it with shellac and then use the water-based.
Yeah.
But you do run into I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, you have to be really careful using a water-based finish when you're working with veneer if you're applying it with contact cement, because it'll expand the veneer and you'll create bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
So those are, so it sounds like you got your whole finishing thing figured out now. You're not going to have a million different cans
right
in the shop here.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be your clear finish, potentially used with shellac sometimes.
If we're doing a stain, I don't have to do any shellac, because then, you're not getting that.
Is your stain going to be a water-based stain?
Yeah, well, we'd shot that video on the spraying
that's
the white.
Right, that's right. What do you think of that? Do you think that compares to, like, if you're going to go over something like a walnut, would you use a stain? Like a spray?
I mean, I would never stain walnut.
Yeah, okay.
People ask us to do stuff like that. But
well, yeah, that's right. You talked about staining one almost black, and that was purely for the grain pattern.
Yeah, which could have been achieved with a different wood. But again, you want to pay for a walnut and you want us to stain it. Knock yourself out.
What else is going on?
So we'll be bringing this kitchen out this week. I tried to get Julie to find us some movers, but no luck.
Really?
Yeah. And the price, she got a couple prices. One person had a good price, and they never sent the contract over like they said they would. People want $1,100 to take this kitchen up to Bergen County.
Well, it's 2 guys. Is it a full day? Not really. No. It's a half day, depending on your traffic. That's the X factor right there. What about, are you going to then put everything into the van and then do 2 trips?
No, I'll probably rent a U-Haul and a 16-foot box truck or something and just take it up there.
So one day you'll bring everything up, and the next day you'll go up with all your tools.
Yeah, the idea was we were supposed to start on Wednesday, but we've got some bad weather, I feel like, this week. So I'm thinking about maybe trying to push delivery to Wednesday, or maybe we bring most of it on Tuesday, tomorrow, and then just throw a couple things in the van on Wednesday and go up on Wednesday morning and start installing. I don't know.
And you're waiting on the doors.
Yeah, so Richelieu, shout out to Richelieu for screwing me over on this job. Honestly, I'm done with Richelieu. If the salesman comes here, I'm going to be like, listen, man, do not come here again.
I believe it.
So I ordered these doors from Richelieu on the 8th, July 8th. Today's the 29th. I was told back in May or June when I inquired about these doors, when I was pricing out the job, getting samples together for the clients. Oh, 2-week lead time. Okay, great. So I ordered on the 8th, knowing that I had to install starting on the 31st. That would get me the doors, say, a week or 10 days before delivery, which is perfect. I don't want them sitting around. I just want to get them, unpack them, hang them. That's it.
Yeah.
Really, I only need a day with the doors. So we're going back and forth, and things are moving slow. And every day I got to be on top of it. I need an update. What's the deal? Blah, blah, blah. So finally, it must have been last Wednesday. So the 23rd or 24th. Yeah. So they haven't even started. And meanwhile, I paid them.
Yeah.
First, they sent me a quote with a mistake, a $4,000 mistake, which I caught, thankfully. So then I pay. This is going back to mid-July. I pay. These doors are $4,500, something like that. So I pay them, and I get this email last Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah, they haven't started the doors, and they have some questions. And when they do start, it's going to be a 3-week lead time.
Jeez.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what are the questions? I gave a door list with all the dimensions. There's 6 doors that had extended rails and stiles, which how can you sell doors if that's not an option? How's anybody supposed to build a kitchen without having some doors with extended rails and stiles? We got to scribe it to the wall. If you want to have a door end panel, you got to scribe it to the wall. But I provided drawings with dimensions of the rails, of the stiles, overalls, everything. And that's what the questions were. So finally, after a couple of days, they sent those. And I keep pushing. I'm like, if I can't have these doors, like this kitchen has to be done by August 14th.
Wow.
Done. Final inspections, everything. So they're like, what, what's your like drop dead date? I'm like, August 14th. They're like, well, the soonest we could probably ship them is like August 19th. I'm like, it's not going to work. So I'm the one that had to come up with a solution. I'm like, okay, what if we nix these custom doors and we just go to all standard doors? And then I'm going to have to figure out how to make that work. If it means scribe moldings or something, I hate to do that, but whatever. Or if I have to like add a piece on that step back or something, whatever, I'll have to figure it out.
Sure.
I need the doors. They're going to get them to me, they say, on the 7th.
Wow. That's just a lot of stress.
I'm going to be in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So Cameron's going to have to accept the delivery. They'll have to, I don't have the confidence in him yet to have him boring doors.
Is he going to be in the shop here by himself while you're away?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got to train him on the forklift between now and then
that
he can take them off the truck. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's too bad about the doors because you just can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally out of your control. At least you're staying on top of it.
And then you finally get, hours wasted dealing with this. You finally get somebody on the phone, this guy who's like the head of the door department for the Northeast. And he's like, it's not that we weren't pushing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you guys are pussies. Make this happen. This is your supplier. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Holy cow. So you'll get that finished, assuming all goes well eventually. Yeah. Then what are you working on?
So we're going to be building that cherry cabinet for up in Hoboken, matching that understair stuff. We got another kitchen on the horizon. I think we might be doing a vanity in the same house where we finished that kitchen in Avon. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting.
Nice. And we're just going to keep pushing, making videos. We had a great meeting with Keith and his wife last Friday. So that's exciting to kind of build the team up a bit.
Yeah, I got to get those contacts.
Yeah, same here. I have to do that.
I couldn't find them for some reason on my computer. It was I had the file said it was there, but I couldn't open it. It was in my trash can.
Anything else?
We got the comment of the week.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I picked one out. Let's see. So this was from Mopar Dude. He comments on a lot of our videos. I think he's an old school furniture cabinet maker. So this is a comment on the kitchen organization video. He said, how does the quality and squareness of that brand stack up against Revishelf? It used to be with Revishelf, about 1 in every 10 to 20 units was built out of square or had something going on with it. These days, it's like every third garbage pullout I do is jacked up in some way. I need to start looking at other options.
There you go. There's the answer.
Yeah. We would buy Revishelf stuff and you pay $300-$400 for something and then it shows up and you open it up and it's just like total disappointment.
So this stuff is comparable in price and better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I just did the silverware inserts and stuff. You take them out of the box and you flip them over to the bottom side and there's pencil marks. These are being made by some guy at a bench in Ohio. The Revishelf stuff is being made. Oh, Julie, I'll call her back. Being made in some, huge factory with probably horrible working conditions by some underpaid worker in Vietnam.
It's nice that you're able to get something made here in America that's a good quality product.
Yeah.
My feeling is if you can get something made in the U.S., it's just the way to go.
Yeah, and you're not going to have to deal with lead times like that. Typically, the Revishelf ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal. Good luck getting your garbage pull out. What do you got going on?
I'm going to be doing some prep work to get new windows in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I have to do some painting and scraping on the front of the house there. I'll be working on that. I got a project video coming out on Saturday, so I have a ton of editing to do. I had Brian Benham make the plans for it. So Brian always makes my plans. Brian's great. And he does a lot of work with Mark over at Wood Whisperer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's part of the guild.
Cool.
And or does projects on the guild.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. I have such a great relationship with Brian because I'll give him my drawings, which are basically chicken scratch with my measurements. And then I usually make a short video for him where I'll just sort of point things out. It's literally like anywhere between a minute and a half to 3 minutes, depending on how complicated the project is. And that way he'll get my drawing, my measurements, and a link to this unlisted video on YouTube. And then usually we might go back and forth 1 or 2 times just to figure out a measurement that I may have forgotten or something. And then he sends them over and I add that. I think I have 35 sets of plans now in the shop.
Wow.
And I used to do like shop projects too, but now I just totally focus on furniture builds. Mm-hmm. So in a perfect world, I would do 4 like solid wood pieces of furniture every year, 1 a quarter. That's what I'm going to try to shoot for in 2025. Probably shaker inspired because that seems to be what like the shaker inspired stuff that the plans on my shop seem to be the biggest sellers. And then I'm going to reorganize my website so I can start selling bundles of like projects.
Right.
So like a bundle of veneer projects, like the modern, I don't know, whatever, the modern set. And that might be 4 or 5 sets of veneer projects. Mm-hmm. And then the shaker set, which could be 4 or 5 or 3 or 4. And then maybe have that like 25% off the other price. So that's that's plenty of work between doing this, making the video, the instructional video, and then just doing tip videos on my channel. Mm-hmm. I do think that it seems like tip videos and just short videos to help woodworkers, especially newer woodworkers along in the shop, do better than long format project videos.
Yeah, I think you get them in with the flashy tip kind of stuff, and then some of them stay for the long format.
Yeah, that's just, and then you can often make a short from a project video and then use that short to drive people to the project.
Yeah,
because I have a lot of people building my furniture. Like I'll get images, or I guess they're DMs, with guys in the shop with me on their flat screen and they're building a piece of furniture. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the direction that I'm taking my business, because it's just changed so much. I mean, I think a lot of YouTubers, I don't want to be in the category of, let me try to come up with something that's really exciting and flashy that I have no use for. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want to do that. I have to have some purpose for it.
Yeah. None of that is making anyone a better woodworker.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some really good woodworkers out there doing more flashy projects. And some of these guys have only been woodworking for 10 years and they've gotten really good really quick. And a lot of that has to do with YouTube. So for me, the only way to learn woodworking was sweeping the floor. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're really into it, you can watch a couple of videos and just get really good in a matter of a year.
Yeah, I wonder though, if you brought one of those guys here, could they hack it in the shop?
It's different work. It's a lot of work. Like Walter said, wow, I can't believe how exhausting doing an install is, because you're really moving a lot and you're in uncomfortable positions. There's also the fact that you're actually working for a client.
Right. Like we have to make money.
Yeah.
If you're making videos for YouTube, you're not making money with the product. You're making money from the video as the product. So you don't have to make it good and fast. You just have to make it good enough for camera. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I always want to have, at the end of the project, I want something that I think is good. Mm-hmm. So like this piece of furniture I'm making now is for my son. And I think it's a nice piece of furniture. I think it's a nice design and it's simple. It's a great introduction to working with veneer. I did have an issue. I used water-based I used water-based contact cement. And I don't know if it was the humidity, or I don't know if it was I let it dry too long, because with solvent base, it doesn't matter. You can let it dry, a couple hours. But it wouldn't, where you separate the veneer with sticks and then you kind of push it down.
Yeah.
It wouldn't adhere, So I ended up using a clothes iron, and it's a good bond. So I'll probably get into that a little. It's one of those things. Do I ignore that in the video? Does that like sidetrack the video? Or do I talk about it and talk about how I fixed it? And I'll probably make some shorts of that, because I did take some footage of like sort of tapping on the veneer with your fingernail.
You can hear
and
you can
hear
hollow.
it. Yeah. And then you hit it with a clothes iron, and it it adheres good.
They make a glue that's how you activate it, right? I think I've seen Corey at CT use that.
I have to find out about that, because that might be something I want to use.
Right.
Because my big problem with using veneer in a vacuum press is, like, if you're building a big cabinet and you veneer the side, how do you put that in a vacuum press?
Yeah. You ever think about getting a tank?
What is a tank?
Like what we have, spray contact?
No.
Kind of makes it inaccessible for the people watching.
And I don't use enough of it.
Yeah.
The contact cement that you're using, I think, is waterborne too, isn't it? It's not solvent based.
I got a new one that's definitely solvent based.
It's really strong.
He was like, "You want flammable or non-flammable?" I said non-flammable, and he sent me flammable.
Okay, so that's
It definitely works a little bit better.
Well, that's always been my case. It's like the more toxic, the better.
Yeah, but I hate that wood weld stuff. Like,
it's strong.
It's a pain in the ass to work with. You got this roller, and the roller's all freaking sticky. It doesn't roll that great because,
I guess I'm used to it.
Yeah.
I use the roller. I line the paint pan with tin foil, and then I make a tin foil cover, and I'm able to work with it for a couple of days, because, with veneer, you're putting the veneer on in a certain order. Generally, I do the back, then the two sides, and the top last. And depending on the project and how many parts there are, you might be veneering for a couple of days. So that's it works for me. And the veneer that I used, or not, the contact cement that I used this time wasn't described as waterborne. It was described as non-flammable, just like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's flammable, and then there's non-flammable. So in the end, it worked, but I was just trying to come up with something like a little bit of a less toxic solution.
Did it stay tacky?
Not the same way.
Yeah. Well, like the flammable stuff, that's like the test. You touch, and when it's not tacky anymore, you're ready to stick. It's like the non-flammable stuff never got to that point where it was like fully non-tacky to me.
Yeah.
I even left a piece as a test like overnight, and it was still like a little bit tacky.
Did you laminate any scraps together to see what happened?
Well, we did a whole job with it, and it worked fine. But, even if that adhesion isn't 100%, you have this big, huge piece that's stuck. Even if it's only stuck 90%, you're not going to rip that thing off. There's so much, tension to,
Sure.
Even if you grabbed a corner, you wouldn't be able to rip a whole piece of laminate off of a countertop or something,
Yeah, I've never had a delamination problem. And I have pieces of veneer projects that I've made that are well over 20 years. And there's no issue at all. I mean, I think that it all just comes down to, it's like common sense stuff. Like, you don't want like a piece of sawdust, or anything between the veneer and the substrate. It's just kind of getting set up. When I start to veneer, I do a big shop clean first. In a small shop like mine, it's like every surface has to be clean, and I'm not running the table saw in between cuts.
Right.
In between.
Yeah, the one issue we get with the spray contact is sometimes you get those strings, and then if you get a thick one, it'll sit, and then when you put the laminate on top, that's another reason we're not using wood veneer. I'm doing contact with laminate. So I like using horizontal grade, which is the thicker grade for countertops and stuff, if I'm doing anything, because it's so thick that you get less translation of anything that's underneath.
Yeah, you're not going to see it. And that's the one issue that I did have once with a veneer project is I think that the substrate contracted just the tiniest bit. but the Bondo filler didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see where the fasteners were. And of course, that's a fail.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it. I was able to sand it out.
Wow.
And that was for a client. So, like, without going through the veneer. And
that's always scary.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm just going to have to veneer over this whole thing again. Sand it.
Yeah.
And then go right over the top and the sides. But so far, I haven't heard back from them. So hopefully.
As they say, no news is good news.
That's right. That's right. You want to mention any? I'm just like an old boring guy who watches movies during the weekend. So do you want to mention any movies that you've seen recently that you'd recommend?
Oh, I haven't watched any movies, but I did finally started watching The Bear season 3.
Okay.
It's good.
I've seen season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
That's a great show. If you didn't see that, that's definitely worth checking out. And also, is it The Claw that the star of The Bear is in? The wrestling movie?
Oh, I haven't seen that with, it's him and
Zac Efron.
Yeah, that's supposed to be good.
It's a good movie. I think it's a sad movie. I don't think that's a spoiler alert. So is it The Claw? Is that what it's called?
I'm not sure, but
Iron Claw?
Maybe.
I think it's Iron Claw. I saw a classic, I think Saturday night, my wife and I watched Jagged Edge, which is 1985, Glenn Close, and who's the guy from The Big Lebowski, the long-haired dude? The dude.
Jeff Bridges?
Yeah, Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is like 35 years old in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, we started some movie that I can't remember, and it was so bad, we went back to the drawing board, and I said, did you remember seeing The Jagged Edge? He goes, I kind of, but it was a long time ago. Really good movie. I'd recommend it.
What's it about?
It's a murder mystery.
Oh, cool.
It's good. And it's always fun going back, like, that's 40 years.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow. These actors are, because I just saw Glenn Close in another film, and she's, 40 years older.
Yeah. I want to watch Civil War. Came out a couple months ago. It's like about like a civil war breaking out in the U.S.
Wow.
I think is it A24, which is a production house. They make a lot of good movies.
What streaming service?
I think, when it first came out, when I was looking at it, it was like you had to actually like buy it or rent it. I think now it's probably on something. Let me see. A24, directed by Alex Garland, became available on stream and video on demand platforms May 24th, 2024. Prime Video, Apple TV, Fandango, and YouTube. Yeah, that looked good. Yeah, when you have a 6-year-old, most of the movies you watch, you don't want to watch.
Yeah.
But I try and sell them on, like, I wanted to watch like Little Giants. He put the kibosh on that.
Little Giants.
That's what's the guy's name? Well, it's the guy from Married with Children.
Ed
O'Neill, is that his name?
Yeah, he's a good actor.
And oh my God, what's the guy's name from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
I know who he is, but it doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right here. Let me open the door. Starring Rick Moranis, Ed O'Neill, and John Madden's in it.
Oh, John Madden?
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, that's got to be an old movie.
Yeah, it's from like 1994.
And you couldn't get Hunter to watch that?
No.
Huh.
So it's like, there's like the Pop Warner team in town, and it's the Cowboys, and Ed O'Neill's the coach, and they're real flashy and cool and all real tough. And then there's all these, this ragtag group of kids. I think Rick Moranis is like his brother, maybe. So they start the Little Giants, and you can see they're in like this like crappy equipment and everything, and they have a girl on the team, and it's
I remember those days trying to find shows to watch with Olivia and the boys when the boys were little. Now Olivia doesn't watch movies with us.
He wants to watch all this YouTube crap all the time.
Yeah, it's too bad because it's not really relaxing. It's not like you're sitting into a movie where like you're saying, okay, now we're not going to do anything for an hour and 45 minutes. We're actually going to watch a story.
Right.
Where after just watching a bunch of YouTube crap, it's like junk food.
Yeah, and what he wants to watch is crap.
Just unwatchable.
Yeah, I'll let him watch like people making stuff like crafts, and he watches
fishing. We used to watch a lot of fishing shows, Olivia and I.
Yeah, he likes to watch Outdoor Boys with me, which is that guy that travels around and they hunt and fish and just do like all kinds of crazy stuff all over the world. He likes that. I watch an Australian guy, Rocket Kit, who does a lot of fishing and camping. He likes that, but he wants to watch like, Mr. Beast and people doing stupid prank kind of. It's just junk. It's and it's all adults pandering to kids, and
it's really nauseating.
Yeah, I just don't like it. And adults acting like kids.
It's so weird. Can you imagine like looking back in time and being like, I can't believe I was doing that on video.
Yeah, and it's not like it's like Mr. Rogers. Like that was for kids, but it was done in it's just nonsense.
Well, Mr. Rogers was doing it with the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be kind of weird if like Mr. Rogers was doing that by himself.
Right.
It's sort of like they came up with an idea of like, okay, it's like Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
If you were like one guy trying to do like a whole puppet show, you'd be like, what's wrong with that dude?
Yeah.
That guy's a little, don't let your kid play with that guy.
Yeah. So I let him watch like these people called Wicked Makers. So they take they'll go to like the Halloween store and buy like one of those, things that like jumps out at you or something, like these like animatronic things almost. And then they'll like rip it apart and turn it into something else. Like cool stuff like that. Or people who make stuff out of clay, they'll take a Pikachu and make it like an evil Pikachu out of clay, stuff like that.
Sure.
People where they're actually making something, showing you how to do something, not just like he watches people who just play video games.
Yeah.
Which it's fine every now and then, but you can't just sit there and watch that all day.
Yeah. Olivia and I used to watch Meat Eater.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked.
What's Cameron Haynes?
Steve Rinella.
Oh, Steve Rinella, yeah.
Steve Rinella. I liked that. I thought that was good. But she doesn't really watch movies with us all that much any longer. She's 15 years old.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm always out for a good movie on like a Friday or Saturday night because my whole thing is to kind of have an early night. I like getting up early. I like the morning.
Me too.
I live for the morning. It's a whole different world. There's no traffic in the morning. That's where I'm at in life.
I slept in Saturday for the first time, and like I sleep in maybe like 6 times a year.
How late did you sleep?
Like 7:15.
Yeah, that's pretty late for you.
Yeah.
Jeez, because you're 4 o'clock, aren't you?
Yeah, every day.
4 o'clock. Do you set the alarm or you just get up?
Yeah, I set the alarm, but I get right up. I don't. My wife, I hear the alarm going off for like an hour in the morning. Like, why do you even set it?
Yeah, that's so funny. That's really funny. I have to be careful getting up. Everybody gets mad at me, and I try to be as quiet as possible. But I like to kind of get up, do a little computer work, and then get out on a bike ride or go right out to the barn. But inevitably, because we have a well, when you start the water, it goes through like a purification system that always makes like this little beeping sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not super loud, but it's just the house waking up.
Yeah.
I guess if I was lying in bed, I'd be like, oh, somebody's walking around, and maybe that's disturbing. But I just cannot stay in bed. I feel like I would feel like guilty if I slept in.
Yeah. Yeah. And like if I wake up in the middle of the night, like let's say I wake up at 2 and it's more than like 15, 20 minutes of not being able to fall asleep, I'll just get up. I can't lay there like that.
What about naps? You probably never, you don't take naps?
Very rarely.
I'm all about like, I don't nap that often, but out in the barn where I do most of my editing, I have a chair, kind of like one of these, but it has a headrest where you can actually kick back.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm like starting to just zone out completely, I'll set my timer for 12 minutes. Usually I'm asleep like before you even know it. And then that time you have a lot of REM, you know what I mean? Like you just have these crazy dreams. Next thing you know, you're up.
Oh yeah.
And then if you double that with an afternoon cup of coffee or iced coffee in the summer, for me, it's like I'm a whole different person.
Yeah, they say drink the coffee first.
Really?
Then you take the nap, and then when you wake up, it's like the caffeine's kicking in, and you're like ready to go.
I might have to try that.
Yeah, if I take a nap, like it would be like I was at the beach all morning and like got tired out by the sun or something. But like if I take a nap, I'm pretty shot afterwards.
Not me. See, I'm like a second wind, totally second wind.
Yeah, it like takes something out of me. I think because I'm such a deep sleeper, that it like puts my brain into like a different headspace or something.
Well, it's a European thing. They, like all of like Europe shuts down, I think, between like 2 and 4 or something like that. I don't know.
It is nice. Like you go, like, let's say you're like on vacation, you go out to lunch and have like a beer or two, and then you take like a half-hour nap. Like that feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. I could get used to that.
But that's not,
I can't do that every day.
Can't do that all too often. Yeah.
You can't go out to lunch every day and have a beer or two every day.
Some people do.
Yeah.
If that's you, here's a sign to stop doing that. Well, I think that's all we got for this week, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Any ideas for what we're going to film next week? We do have all those viewer tips.
Yeah, we might have to get into something like that. I'm sure I'll come up with something. It's only Monday.
Yeah.
I always kind of watch your stories to see what you're working on. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I keep notes about potential ideas for a video. But off the top of my head, I don't know what we're going to be shooting next week. And I don't know what we'll be talking about.
Well, you're going to have to listen next week to find out what Saturday's video is. But yeah, tune in Saturday, 8:30 for video on finishing. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
If you enjoyed this episode, please tell a friend or share it on social media. You can leave a review of this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, today's Craftsman YouTube channel has an upload every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you next week.